So far you've been running code procedure by procedure, but you can also run your code line by line within the procedure. Running your code line by line is known as stepping, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do here. So I've got my debugging workbook. There's something wrong with my VBA code as far as the commissions go, so I need to debug it to figure out what's wrong. I've set a breakpoint where the calculations for commissions start. I started running my code, and it's now at a break at the beginning of the commission calculation. And I want to keep an eye on the commission and the bonus variables while I step through or run my code line by line. So stepping is a great tool for debugging. But one thing that I want to point out before I get started is that before you start stepping through a procedure, you're going to notice that the value for what we're watching is going to show up as out of context. But don't worry about that, because when the procedure runs, after it completes the first step, then the value gets restored back to whatever we're watching it as. You'll see how that works in a second. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually reset this procedure. I'll click on the reset button right up here at the top of the screen. I still have my breakpoint there. I just reset the code as if I hadn't run it yet. And that's why, if you take a look at the watches window, the variables there say out of context because the code hasn't been run yet. All right, so I'm going to click at the beginning of the procedure here, right up at the top of the screen, and then I'm going to go ahead and run this by hitting the F5 on my keyboard. Notice again that takes me to my breakpoint, and taking a look at the watches window, I now have my commission and bonus values back. And again, bonus right now is 0 because I haven't gotten to that line yet in the code. All right, I'm going to move the watches window out of the way just a little bit, enough so that you can still see the code and the values in the watches window. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click back here just to make sure my code is selected. And now what I want to do is I want to step line by line in my code. And that's the keyboard shortcut of F8. Notice that when I hit F8 on the keyboard, the line that the code stopped at, the yellow line and the yellow arrow, have moved down one line. So now my code is starting at the point where it's going to calculate the bonus. The bonus value right now is still 0 in the watches window, but if I hit function 8, F8 again, notice that now I have a value of $1,030.80. So it evaluated that line, and then it went down to the next line that it should be executing, which is the end if. All right, well that one's fine. That value came out perfect. So let me continue to step through by pressing F8 on the keyboard. Here's where it adds the bonus to the active cell, goes down one cell, and then loops. All right, it goes back up to the top, takes a look over one cell over to the left, looks at the commission. The commission is now $8,760. I can see that by looking in the watches window. I am continuing to step through here. The $8,760 was not greater than the $10,000. So then it went to the else if line, and when that bonus line executed, I can see now that my value is wrong. That's where it's giving me the 7 cents and not the 7%. All right, so there's my issue. My issue is in the bonus line, and I can see there is a plus instead of an asterisk for multiplying. All right, so let me go ahead and reset my code. Now that my code is fixed, I also want to get rid of my watches. I can just click on them and hit delete on the keyboard, select it and delete, and close my watches window. All right, so now let me test my code to see if it works. I'll head on back to Excel, click on calculate bonus one more time. There we go, now it looks correct. All right, so that was a fairly simple logical error there. A plus was used instead of an asterisk. But imagine your code was longer or even a little bit more complicated. Knowing how to set breakpoints, add watches, and step through your codes is going to help you debug your VBA.